We're about to talk to Rachel Johnson of Faces of HUD Unity Project. Hey, Rachel.
Hey Asia, how you doing?
I am fantastic. And how are you?
I'm doing great coming off that birthday.
We're going to jump right in. And I'm going to start by asking you to explain what are the Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project and its mission.
Okay, so I wanted to start off by letting you know that Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project started from the meeting that we had with Sean Donovan, where he brought a lot of us to DC to talk about Petra, which is now RAD. And so that's where it started. And there was two young ladies. We have been having a lot of meetings, as you know, with the resident engagement group. And from that derived, that's how we brought Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project. That's how we came up with that name. I won't say we, I came up with that name. Um, having a nonprofit Homer, we needed a group or something to identify with the people, to talk to the people. And so our mission statement, we do have one. It's pretty long. I could read it. I could read it to you. Um,
Could you pull out, because they're going to tell me we're going to run out of time, and I want to get all my questions asked. So
okay,
you
okay,
pull out just a couple of good points.
okay. Just to speak in general, it's about the journey of people that live in low income housing. It's about us coming and uniting and coming together to recognize that our input, the input that has to happen. We have to invest in one another. We have to invest not only volunteerism, our in-kind services, bring about our skills and progressively moving out of the state of poverty. That's pretty much what it is, investing our dollars and understanding our power. That's really what it is.
Now I know the time frame, especially since you framed it with Petra. But could you tell folks how long has the organization been in existence?
We've been Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project started in 2013, of October 22nd, 2013 to be exact. And it started uh, by us, when I say us, tenants coming together to be able to have a conversation about what they live, speak about what they live, and to get answers to the issues that they were having so they can resolve it and sustain their housing. That's
I think
that's
it's good
that.
to know too, and you can speak a little bit about this, that your organization is just a somewhat different and then what I do, because my major focus is in public housing and organizing resident councils. You take it one step further because you also deal with housing choice voucher.
Correct. Actually, I deal with all types of housing, including the market rate renters. Because of my background, I grew up in a multifamily project-based Section 8 property. And
Mm-hmm.
so that helped me in the essence. And I also was a VISTA volunteer with Legal Aid Services. I worked with lots of attorneys, and I'm board member of a multifamily co-op in Miami, Town Park Plaza South. So all of that experience and me being a tenant, that's like a 360-degree angle. So I felt like we need the people, the faces of HUD housing, which includes mainly the tenants, the people that live these situations.
Your long term vision.
Um, my long-term vision is to unite the group of tenants, especially people that live in public housing and multifamily, and to help Section 8 voucher participants move to a place of self-sufficiency and success. And so I created this tour, Saving Our Homes and Taking Back Our Communities tour. And so independently, I had to do this because when you attach yourself to different organizations, they wouldn't allow you to do certain things or say certain things. And so I had to be independent and bold in saying things that others would not say, or help people to recognize the issues at hand, and to get some sort of resolution, and to help people, with case management and things of that sort, so that they can sustain their housing.
Ah, one other thing before I get into some other topics. Helping others make everything right. We've got to talk about that.
That's my mama's baby. Okay, my mother was a community service aide at the City of Florida Police Department. That's my first teacher to organizing in low income housing. She mostly organized around crime prevention. The City of Florida Police Department came to her in that neighborhood and asked her to help get the communications between the police department and the Black communities. So Homer is my mother's last name, helping others make everything right. That's her last name. She came up with the name. She passed the torch to me to start this work. And I just honor her in continuing the work that she does. And, my daughters are continuing to do some things. They're starting to do some things as well. So this is like a family and close friends driven organization. It's mostly about resources and referrals, meeting people where they are.
But see, I learned something. I didn't know it was your mother's last name. Fantastic. Carrying
Yes,
on the
indeed.
torch.
Yes, I am.
What do you see as one of the greatest challenges in affordable housing in the area where you are located?
Whew. The greatest challenge is that the name affordable housing really doesn't do justice to affordable housing, because there's very little and it's dwindling really fast. And so that's the biggest challenge for me, is that I don't even know why they came up with the name affordable housing, because it's really, really just like there is none. And, the affordable housing that they are building and using these tax credits and using trust funds and things like that, the funding that was put aside for the true affordable housing doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist.
You mentioned us coming together when Donovan was at HUD. And it's real funny because those are the same questions we were asking then. What is affordable housing? What do you mean by AMI? And here we are in 2021 with the same questions. What is affordable housing? Is affordable to who? Interesting. So we've moved the needle a little bit down the road, but there's still a lot to be addressed. So, what changes would you like to see come to housing where you are located? And then I want to have you talk about nationally as well, since you are on that platform.
Okay, so locally, as we know, Florida is a red state. So, I do a lot of canvassing and community meetings in these communities, and most people are not registered to vote. And so I want to see a turnaround for that community to understand that them saying that it won't make a difference if they continue to stay in that circle of friends or circle of people who are saying there's nothing makes a difference with you voting. If you're going to stay in that circle, it's going to stay in that circle. So you got to get outside that circle. You got to take a chance and register to vote, and then do that vote. Take the chance on, voting at the poll, but at the same time looking at details of and strategy. The same way you would if you had a situation in your household and your family had would be very impacted by a situation, and you have to get out of that situation. That's where we are right now. There's only a window of opportunity for lots of different decisions. And so right now, I feel like in housing, this is our window of opportunity to unite and be empowered to speak the changes that need to come. And we have to first start as residents, as current and former residents of HUD housing. We have to start to bring about those different changes and improvements.
So we need to have, since many of us are nonprofits, so we need to have a nonpartisan driven movement around voting and education and getting out the vote, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And it has to be done by the people that is living these situations. I mean, these politicians are there supposed to be the servants of the people and on the majority level of the issues, you know. And if you don't see the issues being resolved, then we got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. You know, we got a problem, you know.
Yeah, you spoke earlier about tax credits, and certainly when they first came out with addressing the massive capital needs of public housing, the folks at HUD came up with, first it was Petra, and which united many of us because if I remember the slogan that we used, you're saying Petra, well, it petrifies us. And
Right,
it began to
exactly.
unite us, and we began to come together. And the good thing about that is like folks like yourself and JR and others I had not known, and we met under that banner. So we were able to kind of switch the thinking, because when they came out with Petra, there were no resident participation regs. There were no, I mean, literally everything that folks before us fought for in terms of resident participation, they had written out of RAB. And us coming together, we were able to organize and bring most of, not all, but most of those, rights and regulations back. But in so doing, we're now looking at the diminishing of public housing as we know it, because tax credits is not public housing, and housing choice vouchers is not public housing in the sense of Section 9 housing. Let's say that.
Right. It's funny that you say that, and I want to do a correlation. In 1995, I was a Vista volunteer, and so I worked along with an organization. It's multifamily. It's National Alliance of HUD Tenants, and we created the residents' rights and responsibilities for multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, the majority of people that live in multifamily project base are Caucasians. And so seniors and disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like, public housing, not having those different rights, there's some things that were similar, but it was a lot of control from the housing authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so that difference is that I don't understand how HUD could take one program and allow certain rights, but for another HUD housing program, just leave it non-existent and just say, well, okay, I guess the predominantly Black people that live in public housing, they didn't need the same rights as the people that lived in multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to mention that because, and then I look at tax credit. And I understand that there's a process, right? There's a process for these private developers and private owners to receive, the tax credits, but there's no HUD oversight. There's no oversight for the finance agencies that regulate this tax credit program. So there's different forms and accountability documentation that is not even being submitted. So I look at all of that, and then after the tax credits are over, they're able to just say, okay, I'm no longer accepting Section 8 voucher participants. Let's just go ahead and uproot you, So people are losing their housing in all of these different housing in different ways.
Yeah, because with tax credit, it has that 20-year time frame, and the investors get all their money back. And the housing authority then has the decision to make as to whether it's going to be still remaining affordable. And that's what scares me, quite frankly. Because it's okay, fine, we have affordable quote housing for 20 years. And if the individuals don't understand to watch that closely, because the housing authority say, well, we still own the land, but
Exactly.
guess what? My house is on that land. So
Exactly.
if you've decided that you're gonna the investors, because once they get their money back, well, the other part of that is while the process is going on, the investors are non-existent because you don't even know who the investors are.
Who they are, because there's
Who they
lots of silent partners and people who have come from corruption as far as the slum, the unit, unsafe and unsanitary conditions, and so I don't understand how HUD continues to do business with these landlords.
well, they say, and they have said to me and you as well, that the tax credit program is a state funded program, so thereby they have no responsibility and no oversight.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
the way, just to push it up under the rug so that they can't be held accountable. But it's that they're getting HUD funding. They get HUD funding for these
oh,
tax credit properties.
they definitely mix and match and leverage, so that is clear. So
Yes.
tell me, when it comes to housing in your neighborhood, in your area, how would you like to see it be increased?
I'd like to see the housing in my area. Most of it is like gentrification has just gone wild. Okay, in
And
our
tell folks again
neighborhood.
where you're living,
I
the
live
area
in
that
Fort
you're living.
Lauderdale, Florida. It's Broward County. Really South Florida, Miami-Dade is in that area. West Palm Beach, is in South Florida. And so gentrification has just taken over. The affordable housing units, there's a small percentage that is mandated for low income people too. And so I'd like to see that increase. I'd like to see that number increase. I think that there has to be some agreement that that number should probably go up to like a third of whatever the units are. But at the
Mhm.
same time, people coming from public housing have to adapt. So the other thing is that the people that aren't low income also have to adapt. And so mixing two groups of people, it takes, and that's what we do on Faces of HUD Housing. So we don't just have residents, we have people from all walks of life, types of renters, and they come there and they learn so much about the two, the difference between the different renters. And so people begin to, all the stereotypes that are said about people that live in low-income housing, people begin to see that that is totally not true, that there's a bunch of myths about people that live in low-income housing. We're hardworking people just like anybody else. I remember a time when Trump said that public housing children don't have role models, working role models. Well, I disagree, because they get up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They're the ones who make your beds and in at hotels, and they're the ones who keep your houses clean. They take care of your kids. They're the ones who feed you at restaurants, serve you at restaurants, and like, I don't understand, where did they get that from? That's just a myth.
Well, looking at you, you're a product. Just talked about Homer, right?
Exactly, exactly. And when I think about what my mom did, I come from a home where we were abused by my stepfather, and so no one knew what was happening inside of our home. But I was groomed to become a community activist, someone who to organized. And so I started at an early age, about 10, 11 years old. So that's a part of who I am. So yeah, we work. I started working at 13. So my first job.
I know here in Philadelphia, as we talk about, we just recently, because of COVID, residents came together and started doing outreach under my organization to residents who had lost their jobs and was owing money to the housing authority. So when the grant money came, we took it upon ourselves to go door to door in a partnership with the housing authority, because of course they wanted to partner with us, because if we were able to get residents to access the money in the back rent, that they benefited. And giving thanks to the resident leaders that went door to door, and I mean door to door, having them sign affidavits. The number that when I last checked the number, as a result of that effort, $4.3 million was recouped, to ensure that some of the residents were able to stay in their homes that had lost their jobs and so on. But in doing that, we got a lot of pushback, not from folks that were not in public, that were outside of public housing, because quite frankly, a lot of them thinks that we all just pay $25 a month rent and that's it, and that's all.
Which is totally not true.
Yeah, because I'll show you my rent statement, but that's neither here nor there, right?
Okay.
But however, it was interesting to me that a lot of the residents literally pushed back at us with the thought, well, why, I pay my rent every month, so how are you going to go out here and get these folks and, and allow them to get free money? So it took a lot of mindset changing and talking to some of these folks to make them understand that everybody that received this blessing was not deadbeat, was not a person that didn't pay their rent. They had lost those jobs that you were talking about, of working in hotels and restaurants and offices and so on, not to their own doing. It was COVID. So it took a minute, but we finally got a lot of the naysayers that I represent into understanding that this was a need and certainly a helping hand to those that needed it, and not folks that were trying to take advantage of the system.
And since you said that, I was thinking about how most times they say that low income housing people don't deserve this rental assistance. It's double dipping and all these other things that they come about. But guess what? They give all this money to the banks and all these different corporations in grant monies, tax credits. So are they entitled to it? Should they be entitled to more riches when you have so many poor people? So I think that's something that people don't really think about, how much money these corporations, we get the small chunks, they get the large chunks. So
Crumbs off the table.
Exactly.
Crumbs off the table.
And they're always trying to take that portion away. And the other thing is that people who live in low income housing, right? I don't understand how we can be combative against one another. Back in the day when, I was growing up, we were there to help each other. But they're combative or trying to keep another household or being envious or jealous of somebody else who is receiving, And I don't understand it. I don't understand how when people like us, Asia, go out into the community to help them, but they come against us as advocates, and we're trying to help them as much. So it's a lot of transformation of our minds that has to happen. Lots of people always ask, you got 40,000 people in this group, but they don't understand that from that time to now, it's a transformation of mind, and not everybody is there.
A reprogramming, if you will.
It has to happen because, the housing authority workers have also contributed to the fear of people that live in low income housing. They've contributed to displacement and homelessness. And I don't understand how HUD could give waivers that is not going to be in the best interest of tenants. Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that these decisions and these policies, they prey on the poor.
So that goes back to capacity building and bringing folks into this movement, as I call it, to ensure that when folks like myself, because I've been around a minute, and others, that we are able to, as Dr. Little said, pass the baton. And what type of engagement that we need to be looking at to bring folks on board, because we got into this because it was a passion and a need. The generations beyond us are looking, like I have a youth group and I have them working on a budget. So they get $100 a month stipend. So one of my youth said, "Oh, I got to save up for 2 months because I want to buy a pair of $200 sneakers." So I said to him, "Well, maybe you need to say, first of all, I don't understand $200 sneakers, but that's your wish. So maybe you need to think about saving up for 3 months so that maybe you don't spend all your money and put all your eggs in one basket." So
Right.
I use that as an analogy of what can we do as, folks that will be watching this, and resident leaders that come behind us, behind us, after us, however you want to say it, that we that are in this space now can do to set up a situation or a foundation that would bring them in, would interest them in order to help build their capacity.
Um, it goes back to meeting people where they are. We got to listen to them. I have 3 daughters, right? And so each one of them have different perspectives. And I followed them a lot to save money to conduct my tour. I lived with them to help with my grandkids. And so they would see me on the couch and they would say, "I don't know what you're doing just sitting up on the couch." But they didn't realize that I was really creating something greater. I feel like God has placed this purpose in my life from the time when I was much younger. I tried to get away from it several times. So we have to meet them where they are, find out what their interests are, help them to mold it to the point where they can come, grow, at the same time stay within those communities and help build something just like we did. But they have to listen. We have to listen to each other. We have to listen to them. Just because we're older, like some seniors, I noticed they stay in those positions to control and everything stays stagnant, nothing happening. And when that happens, people got to stop saying, "Oh, that's Miss Agnes," and I'm just using the name. "That's Miss Agnes. We're just gonna have to just wait till she pass away or something like that. She's not gonna give away that torch." Well, we got to go take it. We got to go take that torch and say, "Miss Agnes, we need you as our pioneer to show us the wisdom from where you came from. But we got to keep this baton moving." And that's where the teens and the young adults got to come together, and they got to be honest. And at the same time, I know that we're in a world of today where people are money hungry and looking for fame and all these other things, but we got to take it back to where we came from. We got to take it back to family. We got to look at each one of those individuals and help each one to grow together, financial and not. And I had to do that with my kids. I had to tell my daughter, when you get your paycheck, you create a budget. You put some money aside. A long time ago, we used to take money and we put it in a sock somewhere, or we put it in a shoebox. Okay, you got to take something and put it to the side and don't touch it. You want those tennis shoes, true enough, but what is those tennis shoes gonna do for you? So you have to live beneath your means. That's one place, but at the same time, to get them involved, we got to listen to the youth. We got to listen to them where they are, meet them where they are, and at the same time, those seniors have got to come and give back, and we got to work together.
Well said. Give me your title, and then tell me how we can help the Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project.
So yeah, I am an independent housing advocate. Okay, right now I work with Florida Rising in Broward County, a political action agency, that does some organizing, and I feel like this is a great organization because I've never felt about going. But my title is pretty much an independent organizer and advocate of people that live in low-income housing that have the same right as you and I to safe, decent, sanitary housing that continues to be affordable while on their journey to self-sufficiency and success, whatever it may be.
How can we help?
You guys can help by, and we want to help each other because I want to help you guys as well. I think state by state, we have to identify the organizations that are really, truly doing the work, helping the people. And we have to come together. And so that group is the largest group that I know of residents. So I'm the largest resident council that I know of. And we got to start taking our talents and recognizing each of our talents so that we can serve well. We got to be able to use a step up, step back method. Okay, so in this group, there's so many people that have different issues. So I refer them out to each state's organizations, and how you can help is just pretty much just meeting the people where they are, sticking with them until it is resolved. That's pretty much it. Just help the people where they are. I don't only just help people with housing. I help people with so many different situations. I'm not an attorney, okay? And yes, sometimes I charge a membership fee, but I turn nobody away that comes to me. If they stick there to work through this situation, because guess what? It goes both ways. If they can stick there with me while I help them, they do the footwork around this country, I'm going to help them get to the resource that they need.
And how can we find you?
You can find me, Faces of HUD Housing is our Facebook page. We do have other subdivisions, like right now we have Low Income HUD Housing Network, and we have the Faces of HUD Housing Unity Project page. It has plenty of videos, education on the tour, Save Our Homes tour, and then Faces of HUD Housing, you can join. You can become a member at $25 annually. That helps contribute to our expenses. And right now we're about to purchase an RV. So you can help us by raising the funds to get that RV, to put that RV in those housing communities, to organize the resident councils and educate and empower.
Okay, we're going to close out. Your last words.
My last words.
No, let me take that back. For this podcast, not the last words.
Okay, so my last words for this podcast is that we got to get organized. Residents have got to get organized. That is the main thing to the success of people sustaining housing. Residents got to get organized, and you got to give your input, just like the HUD rules say. You got to get organized, and you can, contact me through Faces of HUD Housing page, and I can help you do that. And we're in January, we have a Get Organized boot camp and challenge coming with prizes and things of that sort. So yeah,
I look forward to you. It has been a pleasure.
Yes, it has. Thank you to one of our greats, y'all. This is Asia Coney. Like, I can't imagine not even being nothing like her. Okay.
Go there. Love you, girl.
Okay, love you too.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. See you next time.